Greeting, fellow nerds. Worm Food here. Today I thought I would take some time and show everybody a quick preview of the brand new Fantasy Grounds extension and some of the modules that I built to support my game that's coming up. So I have this really interesting homebrew icons superhero role-playing game, and I absolutely love it, and I was so impassioned that I created this theme and a whole bunch of other things that I'll be making some videos on in the coming days. So here's the quick background of me as a GM. I'm not a big fan of automation. I love some automation, but for me, it's all about chucking the dice, seeing what the rolls are, doing the calculations, writing notes, just stuff like that. So what I thought I would do is make this a little more of an extension that doesn't have a lot of automation in it. But it'll be plenty of coolness, so let's take a gander at it. If I start off, one of the things I love is I base this off of the core rule set. And so one of the things I love is the ability to do these decals. So you'll see here that right now, one of the first decals is this floating heroes, which I thought was kind of cool and apropos. We have the standard Smite Works decal because you've got to show the show the love for the creators of Fantasy Grounds. Then I created like a villains decal for those people that want to be playing the villains in a particular game. This one I thought was kind of cool, Robot Boy. And for those of you that are fans of DC, I made kind of a DC-ish kind of a decal. And my hope is that when I start the game, and once my players make their characters, that I'll make them silhouettes and then I'll put them as the background of this. So we'll see how that goes. Let's take a quick look around and I'll show you the basics of the kinds of things that I've implemented. The first is that this was my first time to actually build any kind of extensions. So it took me a little bit of work to kind of figure out how things work, and I could have used some tools, I'm sure, but I wrote some tools that kind of did this stuff on my behalf. So for those people that are familiar with icons, the Assembled Edition is the latest and greatest of all the updates. So what I did was I created an Assembled Edition kind of like a manual. And this is basically right from the Assembled Edition manual. And this is like just for me and being able to kind of point to things for my players so that they don't have to do a lot of research, and when we have a question, we can all look at the same thing. Another cool thing about icons is there's a couple of other books. There's Icons Origins, which kind of retells on how to do some more powers. There's some more ways for character creation. And then there's Icons the Great Power, which shows you a bunch of different new powers and stuff. So I also created a manual for Icons Origins, and you can go through and see all of those things. And then I created one for the Great Power as well. So, and you can see kind of go here, those some of the basics. So then I thought, well, gosh, I have all those things already built. Why not create my, oh yeah, I thought I'd show you this too. So as part of like Assembled Edition, there's a really cool adversaries and allies and stuff that are in there. So what I did is I took these characters. Here's like Confederate and Gila Master, everyone's favorite Speed Demon. And so what I did is I took them and I mapped them to my character sheet, and I'll talk a little more about the character sheet in a minute. And kind of put everything in, like the notes, and where I could, I mapped the powers, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Not everything is complete because there's a lot of stuff, and I want to get to playing my game, but it's enough to kind of allow people in my game to track characters and be able to take notes and understand what's going on. So I thought that was cool, and they also have the allies from the assembled edition as well. So we have some of the other characters. So kind of the same deal. I don't need to go through all of those, but another thing. Oh, another thing that I thought was kind of cool was that uh, I probably would do this differently going forward, but I created. So my module is called the BTeam, and I have a video that kind of sets up the setting and stuff that I've already that's been uploaded to YouTube. But a little bit about the BTeam is that the characters are a little bit different than say the regular setting. So the setting is that all the superhero, powerful, godlike superheroes have disappeared in a crazy cataclysm, and just the people with loser powers are left. So these are the people that are going out and trying to fight crime. So, for example, you might have a guy that can summon 100 hamsters or things like that. So I made a bunch of really cool ideas with some people in the tabletop uh, desktop Discord, and they had a bunch of excellent ideas, and I won't go through just a couple of these because I think they're kind of cool, and I'll be integrating some of these in the game um, as we move on. Like here's a guy called the Iron Blur, which is pretty cool, and his backstory is that if I click it, there's not a lot of stuff here other than some stats are set up and powers for people that are a little bit fleshed out, but not all the pictures and stuff are done because I haven't completed all that stuff yet. But this guy's cool because what he got his powers when he was uh, just becoming a teenager, and he ran really fast into a wall and he broke his back. So now he's in a wheelchair, but he still wheels around at super speed. So he got to like repair the tires on his wheelchair because they turn to glue if he goes too fast, and things like that. And then I have a guy here, Visibob. This guy can turn invisible, but he can only turn invisible when he closes his eyes. So if he squints his eyes, then he gets kind of transparent, so on and so forth. And I got a couple of, a lot of characters. I said a couple. I got a lot of different things and a lot of different backstories. And when we create our character, um, which will be another video, I have a whole guidance on how best to create a character that'll be for the game. And there'll also be the session 0 with the players that I hope to create and then also publish out for everybody to enjoy. So let's take a look at some of the other pieces of this, and then we can see how some of the mechanics work. I'll go into these in the next video a little bit more detail, but the kind of cool thing is that I could just click and I added it so it links everything kind of everywhere that I need it. Here's like the informations on how to roll a random character, and when I do this I can bring up the guidance on how to do the powers. So I thought, well, I'll just use tables, the table function that's in core, and have it so you just click a button and it'll automatically roll it. But one of the things I love, and especially in superhero character creation, but I love it in all games, is I love going through the tables and mapping things out, rolling dice and crossing my fingers. So I thought I would kind of leave it to the core of the core game, and we'll see how that rolls. I think a lot of people are spoiled, especially with a lot of the automation that you can get in virtual tabletops. So, and maybe I'm the only one that thinks this way, but this is something I really love to do. So let's take a look at some of the other things that I thought I would do to set things up. Powers are the biggest piece, I think, of superhero role-playing games. So I thought I would set up powers by A to Z, and I also thought, well, let's do them by type. So when somebody comes in, they're like, I want to know how to do friction control. You could click that, and it'll come up, and it'll see kind of what's going on. And, the icons the icon rule set is really awesome. It's kind of a D6 system. It's got a lot of things that you'll see in other systems. Obviously, Mutants and Masterminds is a big one, and then everybody kind of copies from the original Marvel superheroes role-playing game. So I thought, well, let's just try to do as much of uh, mapping things for icons as possible. So let's take a look at some of the character sheets. Um, First is that so as a player, I'll take, and I should be able to pull my character sheet up. And uh, the cool thing in icons, like Marvel and some other power and other systems, is that you have these rankings for what your abilities are. So, for example, if you have a 4 uh, ability, then that's like a fair ranking. If you have a coordination of like a, a 6, that's like a great. And these all mean something. And there'll be a video a little bit on the rules later on, and it'll give you a little bit more information on how I'll be using that. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of map that in and make that work. And then also from a powers perspective, this was kind of, from a not ever doing a extension before, but doing a lot of programming before, this was kind of where was pretty difficult to kind of grasp. So I did it in a little bit of a strange way, but let me show you kind of how I thought I would, how this thing works. So at this point, what I would do, let me just do powers A to Z. And if you were to choose a power, let's say, I don't know, I have to do one that I've actually mapped. Let's do ability boost. One of the things you'll see is I put this little icon here, this little circle that says ability boost above that. You should be able to take that, drag that into powers, and now it sets that up. So from here, you should be able to click a link and it'll show you your powers. And then you can go in here and make your adjustments, change what your source is, concentration, if it's exclusive, what tests are there. So a lot of times in icons, as well as some other superhero role-playing games, you want to just not have a power called ability boost. You want to, customize it and change the name and make it like really cool. And that's one of the things that I try to build into this. Same thing can be done for the specialties, and same things can be done for the qualities. You can load up a list for them. Here's like animal handling, like if you're a person that has a specialty of investigation, which is a hit with everybody, you can just drag that thing in there, and it'll give you a little bit of information that you can then link back and go to for the ones that I've filled out and set up. So that's the basics behind how to do the player, and that's the kind of the core mechanics on some of the pieces that I've put together. I do want to just hit a couple of other things. So across the top, we see the heroes, which are our characters. We have notes, which is kind of a cool method that I'm sharing information with my team, and we'll talk about that later when I'm talking about how we're going to use Fantasy Grounds for the game. The story panel we already talked about. We have the people panel we talked about, and then we have stuff, which is all the really cool items and things that you can get. So in a nutshell, that's basically it. Hey, let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.